In this video I'll demonstrate some of the styling features of PRM-in-XML. The generated HTML files use CSS, which allows the layout of documents to be changed relatively easily. You can supply your own CSS if you want, but the tool has a number of variants to choose from. Here I'll demonstrate how to use some of the different presentations. We start out with a simple demonstration document which contains a definition of os right 0. This is the default style output by the tool. It is quite passable, using some of the standard fonts and a plain layout. It is fine for use on the web. We can use other variants though. The PRM-in-XML tool can pass parameters to the formatter. These parameters control features of the transformation. If we return to the terminal as we have here, we can get some help on the parameters that are available. This printed a lot of information about the different parameters. If we scroll up, we can see some of them. Each format has a different set of parameters, and the format that we're using is HTML5 format. So let's scroll down and see those. There's HTML5. As you can see, it's possible to turn off the contents on the page. This removes the links from the top of the page. This might be useful if you wanted to link the document externally, or you're embedding the document in another page. There are many other options, but if we scroll down, we can see CSS variant. This parameter allows us to specify which variants we want to use. You could also specify a CSS file parameter, but that's more advanced. Let's try out some of these variants. The variants are actually a space-separated list of names that we can include in the produced HTML file, and they're supplied with the --param option. The first variant that I'll show is the PRM variant. This variant applies a style that looks close to the Riscos 3 manuals. It has a bigger effect when used on the generated PDF, which we'll look at later. So we do Riscos PRM-in-XML -f HTML5 for the format, the output file we want to use, and then we specify the parameters. CSS variant, and we're giving it the parameter PRM. And here's the input file that we're processing. Okay. This is exactly the same as the one we used before, but I've added the extra --param switch, which configures the variant to use. We've generated the output, so let's see what it looks like in the browser. This is the document as it was without any variant applied. If we reload it, we'll see what the variant looks like. As you can see, some of the content has changed in style, which is what we expect. The spacing has changed slightly, the weights of the fonts have changed, and we've got some grey bars where there used to be solid black before. There are other changes, but on this document they're not visible. That was relatively simple, but we might also want to make the fonts a little bit more like the PRM. We can do that with some of the freely available Google fonts. In my examples, I've used Francis and Railway, as these are good substitutes for the PRM fonts. To do this, we need to add in variants to tell the CSS to change the heading and the body fonts, and that we want to use them as web fonts as they're not installed on this machine. So, same command as before, and we insert some new options into the variant. So we add in body, Francis, heading, Railway, web font, Francis, Francis, and web font, Railway. There we go. These are definitions that exist inside CSS file, and they enable certain extra features as we go. So back to the browser, and again we can reload and we'll see that the style has changed slightly again. Just the fonts this time, with the headings being a little bit thinner and more flourished, and the body font is a little bit more fancy. If we had the No Frise font, we could use that and we could get something even closer to the PRM, as that was what it used. But Nova East costs money. Anyhow, let's try another style. The PRM variant itself can be modified to make it more like the Riscos 2 manuals. So if we go back to the terminal, same command again, we can go and edit it to add in PRM-RO2. We're keeping the fonts in there as well. So back to the browser, and then we reload that. The style's changed quite a bit more. As we said, we're still using the fonts we selected before, but now the layout has changed considerably. The chapter title has a large separation from the main document. Headings are on the left with a dividing line, and this makes the whole page more dense, despite losing the space on the left-hand side. Although it's an older style, it is a quite attractive look. Back to the terminal. In later days, Acorn released some functional specifications for the NC and for some network components. These had a more distinctive style. Although they were never used for full documentation, the specifications can be replicated in style. The variant name that I've defined for this is Acorn FS, which replaces the PRM-RO2 we just used. So I'm going to go and take away all of the font definitions, as Acorn never had any of those, and we'll just use Acorn FS. We could have left the font definitions in there, it would work just fine. So there we go, and now we go back to the browser. And if we reload it again, we can see a look has changed again. Headings are centered, and dividers are now green, along with the links. There are grey highlight bars for the definitions, and the definition description is also right aligned, which might be easier to skim through in a browser. We've tried some different presentation styles, but not everyone wants to view documentation in their browser. Sometimes a PDF is better. It's possible that some people might want to print out chapters for reference, and PDF is better for that. The HTML that's been created is designed to be used as page media for PDF and printed content. The best tool I've found to generate a PDF is PRM-in-XML. This tool is free for non-commercial and personal use. The PRM-in-XML output has been tested with PRM-in-XML going back many years and should remain compatible in the future. If we go to PRM-in-XML.com, we can use the download link to find the right binaries to use. PRM-in-XML.com. We download, and we can see there are many different platforms supported here. I'm using macOS, but there are also versions for Linux. Here we go, let's download that. Give it a moment. There we go, done. And then go back to the terminal. Move the file from our downloads directory to here. Unzip it. And we can see it here. There we go, there's the Prince directory. Inside the Prince directory you can see that there is an installer which you can use if you want to. For this demonstration I'm just going to use the Prince binary directly. So prince/lib/prince/bin prince -h. There's our help message. It's installed and is working, or locally installed. Let's rebuild the original document using the PRM style and see what it looks like as a PDF. So, build the document, Riscos PRM-XML, HTML5, output file, mysy.html, parameter CSS variant PRM from the mysy.xml. And if that is successful, run prince lib prince bin prince output mysy.pdf, and take in my swy.html. So this is going to generate the HTML file as we did previously, and then after it's completed, when successful, it'll then generate a PDF file from it. We've got a small warning about a CSS feature that isn't supported, but otherwise we're working. If we have a look, we can see there is a PDF file, so let's open that. Here we go. As you can see, this is the same document. It just happens to be formatted as PDF. If we scroll down, you can see how it's got page headers and page footers, and together with the page numbers. The document's split with new pages at the start of each section and API definition, just like in the original manuals. On the left up here, you can see the contents of the document. These are PDF bookmarks, and they let you to jump to each section of the document. The content links that we saw in the original HTML version are not present in the PDF. They aren't needed as the PDF format itself provides them. What about the other styles that we demonstrated before? They work just as well in the PDF format. So let's go back to the terminal and try the Viscos2 style again. We do the same command as before, but instead of just PRM, we add in PRM-in-XML. I'm going to omit the fonts for now because we don't need them. Generate that, and we will return to the previewer, and it has automatically reloaded it. We scroll up to the top, and we just need to make the window a little bit bigger because it's changed the size of the page. As you can see, it looks very similar to the Viscos2 manuals. And as I say, the page size has changed to reflect the size of those manuals. It's another configurable in CSS, so it's trivial to change if you want to. You can see down here, it's all been reformatted to fit the original style of Viscos2 manuals. Finally, there's a new variant that I've created which tries to bring a more modern style to the manuals. It might not be right for everybody, but it shows how the content can be modified to fit different needs. So we go back to the terminal again. The modern style uses different fonts and lays out some elements differently. It takes some of its inspiration from the old functional specs, but largely it draws on the technical documentation produced by Intel. So, same command line as before, but with new options. Instead of PRM-in-XML, it's PRM-modern, and we add in some extra font styles as well. Body Noto Sans, heading Sierra, web font Noto Sans, web font Sierra. Okay, and then generate it. There we go. If we return back to the viewer, we can see it has generated the new style. I've just scrolled up to the top so we can see the beginning of it. It's a slightly different layout. Instead, the chapter headings have turned up on the right hand side and they're capitalized. Same for the main headings. They're in green and they're a lot squarer font. If we scroll down, we can see the SWI documentation here. We can see that the arbitrary indentation has gone, and it's largely unnecessary because we're using the color to differentiate things. This might make it unsuitable for people that are colorblind, but generating different styles is very easy. The body font is a sans serif font without the little serifs on it, which makes it easier to read for technical documentation. As with the other styles, there are a number of presentation features that aren't shown, as this is just a simple document. But the styling of the document is flexible, and if something isn't desirable, it can be changed with a little bit of CSS. All these presentational changes are controlled by the CSS and the transformation, and that means you can worry about what the documentation is and not how it's presented. If you change your mind in the future and you want a different style to present it as, you can do that. And of course, the tools are freely available and they work on Linux and macOS. Whilst Prince isn't available for RISC-OS, HTML generation tools are, and any modern browser should be able to view the results. I hope this has shown how different styles can be used for your documentation, and thank you for watching.